This is Emma.
And Michaela.
And you're listening to Sleeping in Park,
where we talk about our trips to beautiful places.
Follow along as we dive into our past trips, our trip planning, and our public lands.
Yeah. And today we are on episode 10!
Episode 10!
That's so exciting. We're in double digits.
Yes. The history of people and animals in Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah. So this episode will be kind of constructed similar to like the last one was, where it's like a little pop quiz type deal, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Michaela gets to be an active listener today, so.
I'm so good at active listening.
Except for you have to answer pop quiz questions.
I'm not going to be good at that.
But reach out to us at Sleeping in Park on Instagram or sleepinginpark25@gmail.com if you have any questions or anything you want to leave us a comment in this episode too.
And then we are also on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
That was new last week or 2 weeks ago.
So please follow, subscribe, leave a review.
Please.
Wherever you're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because now we're available on so many places.
Which is so exciting.
We worked so hard to get on that one.
We really did. It was a lot more difficult than it needed to be.
I don't know what was up with that, but we're there, so it's good.
Yeah, we're good now.
Yeah.
It only took us 6 months, almost.
To be fair, we kind of are busy people.
We are. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So I guess we'll get right into Yellowstone history. So Yellowstone's earliest people have been in Yellowstone more than 11,000 years, shown by archaeological sites, trails, and oral history passed down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really sorry if I'm just going to say a blanket term for this entire episode. I'm really sorry if I pronounce any words wrong. I tried to look up pronunciations. Yeah. We're just, two Minnesotan girls trying to say the right words. So
I think
Tukadika,
I think that's what it is.
Also known as the Sheep Eaters, are the most well-known group of Native Americans that use the park, while there were many other tribes and bands that lived and traveled through what is now Yellowstone National Park prior to European Americans arriving in America. Yeah. The Kiowa tribe inhabited the area from 1400 to 1700, and a few others of the other 27 known tribes that lived and inhabited this area were the Crow, the Blackfeet, the Shoshone, the Bannock, the Tukadika. And
the Tukadika was actually part of the Shoshone tribe. It was like, a band.
Yeah,
it was like a band of it, or they branched off. But
yeah.
They were still technically part of the Shoshone tribe, I think. So.
Yeah. And the Shoshone and Bannock people collected minerals from Mammoth Hot Springs for white paint.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I like that. I like learning what different things. That's so cool to learn what they used to be used for. Maybe they really did cook a chicken over a geyser.
Maybe they really did.
Although they probably
maybe not
chicken.
Have
chickens. Yeah.
Maybe not chicken.
Maybe a bison.
A bison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I feel like that would burn the outside and not cook the inside. So I guess if you hold it there for a really long time.
But if you also are cooking it a little bit higher above the fire, so it's not as high of a temperature, and you just cook it for longer,
Yeah, I was gonna say actually 250.
Slow and low.
Yeah, I was gonna say actually 250.
Yeah.
300. That could cook. I mean, a chicken in a couple hours. So probably a bison in I don't know.
I don't know how cooking a bison. I don't know how that.
Me neither. But
what
I like how we have gone so far off the road, the path.
And we are 4 minutes in.
Oh boy. It's been a rough Monday for us, so bear with us while we talk about random things that literally pertain to almost nothing. I mean, we had a connection at least.
We did, yeah.
But goodness gracious.
We're funny. And then, so the tribes that lived there would also use the hot springs and just the hot thermal waters to soften horns to make bows, which I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool.
I never even
to shape it?
Yeah.
Just people use wood and water and stuff to shape it? That's
pretty
cool.
I was like, oh, that's actually genius, because I bet they're a lot stronger than any wooden ones.
Oh, I'm sure. Horns be tough. Yeah. Built tough. Sorry.
Horns built tough.
considered the geysers and hot springs sacred, and they use them for medicinal purposes too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know any specific medicinal purposes they were used for?
I don't.
Just that they were used for medicinal
Yeah.
purposes?
Well, I think it was like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything that's like
Wrong.
mega incorrect.
Mega incorrect. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, those are some pretty cool things that Native American people used things in Yellowstone for, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool that you wouldn't find a lot of other places. Like Mammoth Hot Springs, you wouldn't find that.
Yeah.
Sediment,
And
white paint, other places, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
In the late 1700s, fur traders traveled in search of Native Americans so they could trade with them.
Oh, okay.
So they were actually looking to trade with Native Americans. This is, I think, before the mass killing started. I could be wrong. I could be.
I'm sure.
But, I mean, I found in my research that they actually wanted to trade with them. So I was like, oh, wow.
That's sweet of
There
them
were some good
until-
people. There were some good people before bad people came.
Yeah.
So European Americans began exploring in the early 1800s. Osborne Russell recorded early visits in the 1830s to Yellowstone, what we now know as Yellowstone National Park. And the first organized expedition explored Yellowstone in 1870.
That's like.
Well, it was the
That
first
feels like.
organized. So other
Okay.
so
I suppose.
their early visits in the 1830s
Yeah.
were when we first have recorded visits from European Americans.
Yeah.
But in the 1870s when the first organized group of explorers went.
Yeah. That makes
Yeah, so in August of 1870, a second expedition set out for Yellowstone led by Surveyor General Henry D. Washburn, a Montana politician and businessman, Nathaniel P. Langford, and attorney Cornelius Hedges. The explorers traveled to Tower Falls, Canyon, and Yellowstone Lake, and then followed the lake's eastern and southern shores and explored the lower Midway and upper Geyser basins.
Could
Which
you
is,
imagine? Sorry.
no, you're okay.
But, like, could you imagine exploring, like, that area back then?
No, that's crazy to me. Especially when there's, I mean, I'm sure,
I wonder if it,
I don't actually know the year when, like, they started pushing Native Americans onto reservations. Yeah, thank you. But I wonder, like, if it was mostly vacant, you know, because I feel like a lot of settlers wouldn't inhabit the land in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder.
Cool.
But that expedition is actually where they named Old Faithful.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they climbed several mountain peaks and descended into the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone and attempted measurements and analysis of several of the prominent natural features. So like the geysers and the hot springs, they tried to get measurements of that stuff.
The history of science in Yellowstone formally began with Hayden's expeditions. Hayden's 1871 survey team included 2 botanists, a meteorologist, a zoologist, an ornithologist, a mineralogist, a topographer, and an entomologist, in addition to an artist, a photographer, and support staff.
That feels like a lot of people, and a lot of ologists.
So many ologists. But this expedition gave the world an improved map of Yellowstone and visual proof of the area's unique curiosities through the photographs of William Henry Jackson and the art of Henry U. Elliott and Thomas Moran. I also noticed the name Moran, and I was like, is that what like... Mount Moran in Grand Teton is named after? I didn't look into it, but I'd be curious.
Oh.
Yeah.
I bet you're right. I bet there's a connection there.
I wonder. Well, but maybe there's another Moran. I don't know. We'll have to fact check that later in a Grand Teton episode.
Yeah.
We'll have to make a mental note of that. So these photographs and all these ologist people helped actually, you know, bring back to the government and show them that this is like real. No one is faking this.
Did they seriously think that people would like lie about?
Well, so even earlier than this, back in like the 1830s, some people did think that what they were talking about was fake because there's no way that.
I guess if they've like never seen anything like it.
Yeah. So this actually helped Yellowstone National Park become established in 1872. So Langford and companies prompted a bill to Washington in late 1871 and early 1872 that referred to the precedent of the Yosemite Act of 1864. And that was, it reserved Yosemite Valley from settlement and entrusted it to the care of the state of California.
Oh,
Yes.
so is this where the controversy comes in, where it's like, which one was the first?
There, actually, I get into that, yeah, like in just like a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I'll stop talking.
there's two other places in the country where it's debated, like, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
Do they, like, I'll wait. I'll
okay.
wait with my question.
So, the wonders of Jackson's photographs, Moran's paintings, and Elliott's sketches captured Congress, like I'd said, where they were moved by it, and this is what the United States Congress established Yellowstone National Park 6 months after the Hayden expedition. So this is what really sealed the deal for them. And in March 1st, 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant signed Yellowstone National Park Protection Act into law, and it's the first national park in the United States of America. There is some debate about this being the first national park, and the reason is, okay, so the second place is Hot Springs in Arkansas was actually set aside in 1832 as a national reservation, similar to our national forest, kind of what they are now.
Yeah.
Since it was set aside for a resource, the hot water. But Congress established Hot Springs, or didn't establish it as a national park in 1832. So this is why there's some, like, that was the first government land set aside.
Okay.
As, like, national.
Yeah.
And then Yosemite became a state park in 1864. So that's before Yellowstone became a national park.
Yeah.
But Congress was kind of disappointed in the results of it being a state park. It wasn't managed exactly how they thought it would be.
Yeah.
Which is why it was made into a national park in 1890. And the reason Yellowstone was a national park was also because it was within 3 territorial boundaries. So it was in Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho at the time. Those are the reasons why it became a national park, because they were kind of about how Yosemite was. Also, just funding from a national park is different than funding
for a state park, yeah.
But the park's promoters actually thought that the park would not cost the government anything. So, Nathan P. Langford, who, if you remember, actually went on one of the expeditions, was appointed the unpaid post of superintendent from 1872 to 1877. Yeah, Felicius W. Norris, we're going to call him Phil, was the second superintendent. And so the next year after 1877, so Congress actually put funds towards the park.
Okay.
So this is what made Norris, the second superintendent, able to construct roads, park headquarters in Mammoth Hot Springs, hire the first gamekeeper, and campaigned against hunters and vandals, as well as geographical knowledge because of his exploration. And his term ended in 1882. I don't know if his job, I don't know.
Okay.
So he was no longer superintendent after 1882. So Norris's time was during a warfare between the United States and the Native Americans tribes. Okay, so now, there we go. Look, I did learn when when that happened. So, he told the public that Native Americans shunned this area because they feared the hydrothermal features. Even though tribes used Yellowstone hydrothermal features for ceremonially and medicinally. So it was just a blatant lie to make people feel better about coming. Like, it was basically like false propaganda.
Yeah.
You know?
That's crazy.
Yeah. And the next 3 superintendents were not able to protect the park from poachers, squatters, woodcutters, and vandals. And these,
So I seriously, like, wonder how different Yellowstone looked back then.
I wonder too.
Like,
well, I guess you don't have, like, the giant loop roads and, you know.
Yeah.
But you still have the main geographical features that look the same, like Grand Canyon, the Yellowstone, the Grand Prismatic Hot Spring, you know.
I also was wondering how, like, on that expedition, how did they get down there?
I don't know. When it said they went down in the canyon, I was like...
Like, that's a roaring river down there. Like, it's powerful. And, like... I just want to know how that happened. Like, what did they do?
I don't know. I didn't look that far into that.
I hope they didn't, like, try to swim in the river.
I kind of doubt that. I feel like because they were explorers, they weren't dumb about it.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure. But the railroad arrived to Yellowstone in 1883, allowing easier visitor access. And since the last 3 superintendents weren't able to protect the park, basically from almost anything, the U.S. Army managed the park from 1886 to 1918.
Really?
Yeah. So Ed Howell was the first person to be arrested and punished under the National Parks Protection Act that was passed in 1894 for poaching multiple bison from the national park by the Army. But the maximum punishment for this was banishment from the park. So there's just a horrid picture of U.S. Army personnel standing on a porch of a building with, it's got to be like 10 or 12 bison heads from, it's Ed Howell that poached them, and they caught him.
Yeah.
But the maximum punishment for this was
just banishment.
Yeah, you just can't come back to the park.
That's crazy.
And Congress wasn't happy with how the money was being used, and it was being used, but it wasn't clearly being effective.
Yeah.
Which is why the Army came in and took charge of Yellowstone. So this helped with like being able to catch poaching personnel and loggers and vandals and stuff. Emerson Hugh wired this report to the Forest and Stream, a popular magazine. I noted this, where George Bird Grinnell was the editor and renowned naturalist, which helped create a natural outcry. So
okay, that Moran dude definitely has like some tie with
to the Tetons.
Because
I noted that because it was George Bird Grinnell, who's like known as like a father of Glacier National Park. But so Emerson Hugh wired that to George Bird Grinnell because he knew that it needed to get the attention of the public.
Yeah.
So this was the poaching problem in Yellowstone, even after it's a national park.
Yeah.
So Congress passed the National Park Protection Act, which increased the Army's authority for protecting parks treasures. And the Army protected the park, but lacked the knowledge that visitors wanted to know. So they didn't have information like our nowadays rangers do, where you ask them a question and they just know the answer.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10 they'll know it, yeah.
The National Park Service Organic Act was passed by Congress and approved by President Woodrow Wilson August 25th of 1916, were Yellowstone's first rangers, which included veterans of Army services actually, and became responsible for Yellowstone in 1918.
I like that a lot. That they had like that was a job option for veterans.
Yeah.
Like I really like that.
Me too.
I really like that.
Yeah, well, especially because some of them had been protecting the park for a couple decades now.
Yeah.
So maybe some of them, I'm sure, did learn about what it was and wanted to go through the training to actually become a ranger. I actually wonder what the training was for a ranger back in 1918 then. I didn't look into that. I'd be interested to do how you would have became a ranger in the 1900s though.
Yeah.
Like, really. Yeah, that would have been cool. Automobiles were allowed in the park in 1915, making it even easier for visitors to access, and the National Park Service was created in 1916. So think about that. We had a national park, but we didn't even have a National Park Service.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, because even then, how many other parks were made before 1916?
A couple.
Yeah.
For sure. Because we know
Interesting.
for sure Yosemite. I don't know how many others, but
Well, when was Hot Springs made? One. Was that later?
I don't know if it was. I think it was early 1900s. I could be wrong. And so actually during this whole time there were some thoughts about the boundary of the actual park, but people were like, it should be extended more this way, or it should be brought in like people. There's a little bit of controversy on the boundaries of the park. The first boundary adjustment to the park was made in 1929. So President Hoover signed the first bill changing the park's boundaries, and then in 1932 issued an executive order that added more than 7,000 acres to Yellowstone that provided a wider winter range for elk and other ungulates.
That's actually really cool. I like that. Also, Hot Springs National Park became a national park in 1921. So it was just shortly after
the National Park Service was created.
Yeah.
You can keep that in case we need to keep fact-checking me.
That's smart.
Funds and visitors declined during World War II, like it did in all national parks, just as efforts were going towards the war and, not as many people are out and about doing recreating. Clearly. But after World War II, there was a surge of visitors with no money to finish or create infrastructure for the park. So in 1955, National Park Service Director Conrad Worth persuaded Congress to fund an improvement program for completion by the National Park Service's 50th anniversary in 1966. So it's not Yellowstone's 50th, it's the National Park Service's 50th anniversary. It was designed to increase the education programs and employee housing. Mission 66 is what it was called, mainly focused on visitor facilities and roads. Trained as an architect, Worth encouraged the use of modern materials and prefabricated components to quickly and inexpensively construct low-maintenance buildings. So if we think about those really historic buildings that we love, that was like before this. It was before 1966, a lot of them were.
Yeah.
Because then like the second push came where they wanted to do more low maintenance, cheaper to construct, and, you know.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, the national park is not just, you know, millionaires, I assume, where they can just throw a bunch of money, but this architectural style is now known as the Park Service Modern. Yeah. And it was a deliberate departure from the picturesque rustic buildings I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Which was known as the Fantasyland quality.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Right? But it was considered to be too labor intensive and too expensive for construction.
Which, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Also, I didn't even know this was a thing, okay? But in 1988 is known as the Summer of Fire in Yellowstone National Park. Don't even read this! No, you can't read. Let me talk. Ready? Be surprised by my words. So June 14th of 1988 to November 18th of 1988, it was 793,880 acres, which is also known as 3,213 kilometers squared, which would be, I think I equivalated that right. I don't know. Oh, but it's probably hectares it goes into, right? Like acres and hectares.
Acres?
Yeah. Those equal each other. And kilometers squared is probably like miles squared or something weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, Canadian people.
And people from every other country other than America.
For real, why is America the only one? I'm sorry, when I was thinking hectares, I was thinking of Heartland, and then I was like, you know, where it's like a hectare, so I just immediately thought Canadian people. I'm sorry, everyone else who isn't in America and listens to this.
So funny. Oh my gosh. We're hilarious. I hope you get a good laugh.
I'm sorry, everyone. So it was multiple fires, and 42 were caused by lightning, and 9 were caused by humans.
Okay, also, like that whole summer, out of all those different fires, only 9 of them caused by humans?
Only 9? That's a lot. Well, I guess.
Okay, out of the 51.
What's the percentage of wildfires that are started by humans?
We're starting this again.
Yeah, okay, last question. I'm lying, it won't be the last one. It's definitely not going to be the last one.
Are we doing, like, national park wildfires?
Just do wildfires. I'm just curious. Because I thought it was, like, too high of a percentage. I mean, any percentage is too high of a percentage, but...
What?
What is the percentage?
Take a guess.
50? Up? 70? 80?
85 to 90. There's no way that's right.
Okay, but think about campfires that aren't, like, held responsible. Cigarettes, just butts thrown out, like...
I guess. But yeah, this is even on the National Park Service, like, website. Nearly 85% of wildland fires in the United States are caused by humans.
Use the brain that God gave you. Get better. Oh my goodness, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Because that's wildfires. It's not even, like, our prescribed burns where, like, it's good to burn. No, that's crazy. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Also, we took a short detour into the Grand Canyon fires of this year because for some reason we thought it was way larger than it was.
Turns out way wrong.
Turns out, what was it called?
The Dragon Bravo fire was actually I keep wanting to say
Don't say only.
But the Dragon Bravo fire was just over 145,000 acres. We thought it was like
a lot more than that. But I think we thought that because it's the largest wildfire in a national park ever in history.
But we learned
it's a singular fire, and that's why.
Yeah.
Because in Yellowstone, we learned in 1988, almost 800,000 acres burned, but it was from
51 individual fires.
Yeah.
Not one big one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not that makes it like any better. Like
No, but that's why I think because we
Yeah.
thought that the Grand Canyon fire was just
it was like over 1 million. I was so convinced it was over 1 million acres.
we looked it up. The Grand Canyon Park is
literally
1.2 million acres. So
So it would have been like the whole park.
yeah. So we learned some things today too, which is pretty cool.
So now we are going to get into some animal history in Yellowstone, and this
I'm
is
so
where
excited.
our pop quiz starts. Yes, okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
How did the bear feeding in Yellowstone National Park start?
Was it just like by accident, like people?
It was, yeah. So during its first century, Yellowstone National Park was known as the place to see and interact with bears. Hundreds of people gathered nightly to watch bears feed on garbage in the park's dumps. Enthusiastic visitors would feed bears along the roads and behaved recklessly to take photographs, which I'll talk about a little bit later.
What? So okay, like people would just make piles of garbage for bears, like on purpose.
Okay, so like you were right that it started as an accident. So in the late 1880s, bears began feeding on the garbage cans at the hotels.
Okay.
So the hotels began creating garbage dumps for the, like, away from the, like, not, instead of using, like, dumpsters right by the hotel.
Yeah.
They moved them a little bit away, but this turned into a huge tourist attraction because the bears would feed nightly on the garbage, which were then conditioning bears to associate food with humans. And also we're feeding them literal human food, which is not good either.
And nobody saw this as an issue, or like...
So it actually turned into, like, they advertised it as an attractor, like, as an attractment to the park, which we'll get into. So the first garbage dump was near Lake Hotel on Yellowstone Lake, which is actually the oldest operating hotel, built in 1891. And the second was near Canyon Hotel, which later burned down in the 60s, but was built in 1910. And there was also one by Old Faithful Hotel. So in 1910, the first incidents of bears seeking human food along park roads. So they've already been, like, garbage feeding, but this is when bears begging for food on the side of the road became a common thing. So
No way!
Yeah. So they also used horses with wagons to dump garbage closer to the road so visitors could see better.
What?
Yeah, so there's this crazy picture which we should post on our Instagram, but it's of a man sitting on a horse with just, like, literal bears, probably, like, 30 feet behind him, just feeding on the garbage he just dumped out of a wagon. But he's just sitting there.
So were none of these bears, like, aggressive at all? Or, like, how did they, like, get away with this?
So we'll get into that too in a minute, but so after they realized that this was a tourist attraction, they started advertising it. They set up actual, like, wood stands and, like, a concrete pad to dump the garbage on in the stands for visitors to sit in, and flash floodlights for the nighttime feedings when they would just put garbage out for the bears. 50 to 70 bears, grizzly and black bears, would attend, and there would be bear fights, and that was just, like, an added bonus if you saw a bear fight. Isn't this crazy?
I can't even imagine.
Right? Like, you think about what we do now for bears, and this is the complete opposite.
Yeah. Well,
but we'll kind of get into why we do what we do.
Are those, like, concrete pads still there? Or, like, did they take them out? Like, how did...
I feel like they had to have taken them out. Yeah. Well, and all the feedings weren't done on concrete pads, but the point is they just started establishing structure around this, because some were just, like, kind of by the road, or they just dump a wagon. Yeah, full of garbage.
Just dump a wagon of garbage for the bears.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So in 1916 was the first confirmed bear-caused human fatality, which I'm actually surprised they lasted that long without a fatality, like, without a death from a visitor. Yeah. And in 1920 they were advertising for a guaranteed picture with a bear. So it'd be like, come stay at the hotel and you'll get a picture with a wild bear.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So people were getting attacked because we know that this teaches the bears to connect humans with food, and also people were just being dumb
Yeah.
So they were trying to get, so for the roadside feedings, when they would also be like begging bears, more black bears than grizzlies, but they would become very accustomed with people, and people would like do things like try and get the bears to stand up on their hind legs to feed them, so they would get like scratched by the bears trying to stand up to get the food that they were reaching, just to get a picture of them, like, yeah, well,
that's
I mean,
just people in their own stupidity.
well, this is a lot of just people's stupidity, if you think about it, because
crazy.
yeah, but
wonder how fat these bears got.
but
like,
I wondered, yeah. So 1931 to 1969. So think about that. Only what, like 50 years ago, this was a encouraged thing, almost, like,
that's crazy.
But okay, from 1931 to 1969, there was an average of 48 bear-inflicted human injuries and more than 100 incidents of property damage that would occur annually each year. So, and the property damage would be like damage to people's vehicles and like camping equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
But I actually thought that was really low for if 50 to 70 bears were showing up at a nightly feeding.
Night. Yeah, that's true.
But Yellowstone started euthanizing or sending bears to zoos that were responsible for conflicts. So they started removing bears from the population, and most of the time that means euthanizing them. Not a lot of them went to zoos, or I don't know if sanctuaries were quite as big in like the 1970s, where like we went to a bear sanctuary and they had ambassadors.
Yeah.
Where the bears tried to live, like they tried to get them a comfortable life because they're human condition, instead of putting them down, and like raise awareness for, this. I didn't do any research on that, but I do know that most of them were put down. So I don't know if like there were that many bear sanctuaries to send the bears to 50 years ago,
Yeah.
Or I don't even know how many there are now.
Not many, apparently.
But in 1960, the park implemented a bear management program to expand visitor education about bear behavior and proper food storage, prohibiting bear feedings, and removing dangerous and habituated bears, while the open pit garbage dumps remained open. So they're like, don't do this, but they're continuously...
we're still gonna do it.
Yeah, basically, which is so, like...
hypocritical.
Very much, but also, you're not really fixing the problem, because if you're teaching bears to eat garbage, they're still gonna go into campsites and eat people's food. Like,
and also, you can't just expect them to all of a sudden stop. Like, after it went on for so many years, you can't just
it's a habit. That's how bears,
that might be all they know.
Yes. That probably is all that a lot of the bears knew then.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so after 10 years, so from 1960 to 1970, the number of bear-caused human injuries decreased slightly to an average of 45 each year instead of the 48. Yeah.
Wow.
So in 1970, Yellowstone initiated a more intensive program that included eliminating the open pit garbage dumps inside the park.
Wow.
And this was to try and return the bears to a more natural diet of plant and animal foods. Yeah. Right? But
oh my gosh.
But during that time, an annual average of 38 grizzly bears and 23 black bears were removed to backcountry areas, with an annual average of 12 grizzly bears and 6 black bears being removed from the population or euthanized. Because they already are accustomed to, like you said, that's all of what some bears know. So they don't, know most of anything else. They
how to forage for food. Like, they just expect it to be there.
Yeah, and also when they learn that they can just get a garbage dump full of food, that's what they're gonna look for.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sad.
It is. And also, if you think about how far we've come in bear management, it's crazy.
Like, since then, that's insane.
Yeah.
Even in just, like, that 50 years.
So they stopped doing these bear feedings in 1970, but if you think about that, that's 80 years of doing the same thing and having issues and not changing it, really, because they changed, in 1960, they tried to educate visitors more, but they didn't eliminate the garbage dumps, which I thought was crazy. But the number of bear-human conflicts did decrease to an annual average of 10 each year after 1972. So after they removed the garbage dumps, the bear removals also decreased, so they stopped euthanizing bears.
What it is now
as much. The human. Oh, you should look that up. But in 1983, the park implemented a new grizzly bear management program that emphasized habitat protection in the backcountry areas. So the park establishment bear management areas. It restricted recreational use where grizzly bears were known to concentrate.
1 injury per year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was really low. But the goal of these bear management areas that they established was to minimize bear-human interactions, right? That might lead to habituation of bears to people and prevent human-caused displacement of bears and decrease the risk of bear-caused human injuries in areas with high bear activity.
Yeah.
And this program continues today. So when we saw like bear management areas, and I didn't know that that's what they were. I thought it was closed because like they saw a bear there and they didn't want people near it. But I like that they close it almost like proactively.
Yep.
Not always, but they'll close it just to give the bears their space. And I thought it was for our safety. And while it is for our safety, it's also so the bears can have their space. And
I like that a lot.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. And I was like, oh wow, look at us doing something right in 1983.
Right.
I mean, we weren't even alive then, but
No, but
so then in the 1990s, they started hazing bears because, so as what we know today as bear jams, right?
Yeah.
When there used to be bear jams, they used to haze the bear or try and haze the bears constantly to get them away from the roadside because, then people had traffic in it.
Yeah.
But by doing this, it didn't always work. And also, the bear's natural food is like a lot of black bears, is mostly vegetarian. Like they forage for berries and plants and stuff in the meadows that surround the roads that we drive through. So it was really hard to keep them out of those areas when that's where their food source is.
Yeah.
So now today, we manage the visitors and not the bears.
I like that a lot.
Oh, I had the number of injuries per year, sorry.
So
there's a decrease in human injuries from 45 per year in the 1960s to 1 per year in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And a decrease in property claims from 219 per year in the 1960s to an average of 15 per year in the 2000s.
Wow.
And a decrease in the number of bears that must be killed or removed from the park from 33 black bears and 4 grizzlies per year in the 1960s to an average of 0.34 black bears and 0.2 grizzly bears in the 2000 years. Yeah. So managers will remove nuisance bears conservatively. So they'll do it. They don't do it often, and with minimal removal of females, especially. So they try not to remove females unless it's absolutely necessary.
Okay. Yeah.
And they emphasize removing the human cause of the conflict rather than removing the bear now. So if like someone is, let's say you're just walking along the trail and a mama grizzly and her cubs are there and like, let's say like she swats at you or something and that's more of you were in her space and less of
getting too close to her babies.
Yeah. And so, well, you purposefully didn't do that, right? But that's a human caused bear injury instead of like a bear showing aggressive behavior where it intentionally goes out of its way to stalk humans. Those are the bears that they really want to remove because like stalking behavior is never a good behavior for a bear to have. That is when you will have like a
fatality.
Yeah. What are those animals like? Just man-eating animals?
Don't they call it? I don't know what they call them.
Yeah, but there's like a word for it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
In 1975, grizzlies were listed as threatened, but later removed in 2005 and put back on in 2009 and removed again in 2017 and then added again in 2018. So basically,
it feels like a very back and forth type of deal.
It is. And I found that in the wolf research I did too. So it seems like a lot of times they'll be removed from endangered species, or the threatened species list, but then they'll be put back on it because the population is immediately decreased below the threshold that it was to be, listed as an endangered or threatened species.
Yeah. You'd think that they would have to, like, grow it
to a certain extent before they...
Yeah, past, like...
Yeah. Well, I also think part of it is because different states manage the animals differently, too, once they're not on a federal endangered list.
Oh.
So state management of the animal, I found out, is different. I'm not sure in exactly all the ways, but it's different than when it's on a federally protected level.
I suppose.
But you'd think, there would be, like, more of a buffer before it...
Yeah.
I mean, because...
Before they were just put back
because it went on and off 4 times in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And some of them being within a year apart, so...
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But today they still do use some hazing techniques like they did in the 90s. They don't do it for like the reason of traffic jams now, but they do it if they know that there's a bear that was like fed human food, for example.
Yeah.
They'll make sure they haze that bear really hard to give them a negative reaction, or if they're, you know.
What do you mean haze? Like,
so like rangers will come and they will like yell, and like if it's a black bear, they'll like yell and throw things near the bear and like really try and give it a negative like
association.
Yes, thank you. That's the word. With people. So they usually only do that with bears that they know have either eaten human food or had like not appropriate human interactions where it was too close of a call. So they really just want to imprint that humans should not be, that bear should not be okay by humans. That they want to not be by them.
Stay away from humans.
Yeah. Which I actually is definitely a better, I think, than just like having to remove them from the population. So I like that we're using more conservative techniques to try and, conserve the bears.
Like fix the situation rather than just
killing the bears because it's a human caused problem. Yeah. Yeah. So I like that now we're trying to correct it when it is a human caused problem instead of just having to kill them. Yeah. But
I agree.
We will post this picture, but this picture for Michaela, that's not even 30 feet actually. There's like 20 bears standing behind this man on a horse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Look, there's a bear fight right there.
Yeah. Wait, I'm trying to read what the sign.
Lunch counter for bears only. Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
I wonder if other animals did like squirrels or like anything get in there and like.
I'm sure maybe just not when
got territorial over it. Like,
oh well, bears are very territorial about their food.
Yeah.
I'm sure, but maybe like when the bears would leave, then like rodents and other animals would come in after that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So now we'll get into bison. Why were so many bison killed?
When? Like way back in
just in like the 1800s time. When the bison almost became extinct.
Okay. Was it? I want to say it's for their resources, but like my gut's telling me it's definitely not.
Okay, so we'll get into a little bit of backstory and then we'll
I feel
go
like
into the real reason.
Like a sad thing.
So the American,
it's gonna like make me sad, but I'm gonna say it's for their resources.
Okay. So it's incorrect, but I'll get into why. So the American bison once roamed across most of North America in numbers that reached into the tens of millions.
That's could you imagine?
So like, before the late...
We thought that what we saw was a lot.
That's true.
But like millions?
Yeah, all over.
Because we saw probably like hundreds.
Yeah.
Millions?
Yeah.
Oh.
So before the late 1800s, millions of bison roamed the continent, but overhunting by the 1880s reduced their numbers to fewer than 1,000, with Yellowstone becoming the sanctuary for some of the last wild survivors.
Oh.
So such abundance made the bison a critical part of Native American culture. Every part of the bison provided something for their way of life, which I liked. I think that's so cool that they use every single part of the animal and nothing goes to waste.
I love that.
When we learned that in school, I was like, that's actually so smart.
Yeah, it should be like that.
Yeah. Don't just kill it just to kill it. This was not the reason that they became almost extinct. As European Americans settled into the West in the 1800s, the U.S. Army began a campaign to remove Native American tribes from the landscape by taking away their main food source, bison. So, at that point, bison were just being killed to be killed because they were trying to basically starve out Native Americans. Because if you take away someone's food source, like, that's their main food source, what are they going to do?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I read that and I could not believe it. I never knew that. I was like, what?
They don't teach you that in school.
I don't remember that in school. I remember learning about how Native Americans use every part of the bison, but I didn't remember learning that the U.S. government or Army made a campaign to kill all the bison so the Native Americans didn't have any food.
That's horrible.
It is so horrible. I couldn't believe when I read that. I was like, what?
I like my answer better.
Well, we start getting into a little bit more sad than happy. Okay, so hundreds of thousands of bison were killed by U.S. troops and market hunters.
Oh my gosh.
By the late 1880s, the great herds of bison that once dominated the landscape were nearly gone. Some animals found protection on private ranches. In the Yellowstone area, their numbers dwindled to about 24 left in Pelican Valley.
What? Like
24.
Out of
About.
all of.
Well, so some did find protection on private ranches. So there already were some bison conservation people at the time.
Yeah.
But there wasn't many.
Yeah.
Late 1800s.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of ranches that are just let's conserve
save this animal.
Yeah. But there were a few. So in 1902, Yellowstone purchased 21 bison from private owners and raised them at the historic Lamar Buffalo Ranch. Eventually, these animals began to mix with the park's free-roaming population, and by 1954, their numbers had grown to roughly 1,300 animals.
Okay.
Yeah, so see, we're getting better. Next question. What is the ecological importance of bison?
Oh. Well, it's got to be like just classic circle of life stuff.
Pretty much, yeah. The return of bison revitalized the ecosystem, right? Because we know the ebb and flow. You need all the animals to have the right things. But specifically by influencing the grasslands, creating denser and more nutritious plants through their grazing and dung. So their grazing and poop actually helped the grasslands. So Yellowstone bison reproduce and survive at relatively high rates compared to many other large wild mammals. And so even as the population recovered, managers limited its growth with frequent culling because they didn't want the herd to get too big where they would eventually starve and you would,
I suppose. Yeah, but why don't you just relocate them?
Well, we'll get into that because yes, culling is not the ideal.
No.
But a halt on culling began in 1969, but this resulted in the bison population increasing dramatically from 500 animals in 1970 to 3,000 in 1990.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 6 times the population in 20 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah. At the same time, and this also partly had something to do with the wolves, which we'll get into in the next. That's the next and third animal. But at the same time, a growing elk population, which peaked at more than 19,000 animals in the late 1980s, created competition for food. Bison and elk searched for grass to eat during the winter, and they began to leave the park in greater numbers. This also would take over some of the grazing land for the ranchers in the area.
Yeah.
So large groups of 1,000-pound animals searching for food creates challenges with people sharing the landscape, both in terms of human safety and bison safety.
Yeah.
Because then ranchers would kill the bison because they were eating the grass that their livestock was using. And to further complicate things, bison and elk in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem carry brucellosis, a disease that can be transmitted to livestock and induces abortions or stillbirths in infected animals. So brucellosis has an economic impact on ranchers because it affects the reproductive rate and marketability of their animals, obviously.
Yeah.
So park and state wildlife officials have gone to great lengths to prevent bison from mixing with cattle so livestock doesn't get brucellosis. Between 1985 and 2000, about 3,100 bison were killed as they tried to migrate out of the park. Some were captured and shipped to slaughter. Others were shot by hunters or state agents. And this was partly in their effort to try and not spread brucellosis.
Yeah.
But also partly because they were grazing on other lands. So these actions, the killing of 3,100 bison in 15 years, create a lot of controversy. Meanwhile, the bison population continued to grow, even with that 3,100 bison being killed, as did state and federal pressure to keep brucellosis out of the livestock in the area.
Okay. So this is saying brucellosis is not typically, gonna kill an adult buffalo, but it does cause, the abortions. So that makes me wonder, how they're, how they grew their species so quickly if
elk and bison have it, yeah. Well, because at that time, the elk population was soaring, too. In 1995, the state of Montana sued the National Park Service for allowing bison population to leave the park. So after 5 years of litigation and mediation, the state of Montana and federal government developed the Interagency Bison Management Plan, the IBMP, to guide the management of bison in and around Yellowstone.
Okay, but how are they supposed to expect the buffalo to just know where the borders are?
Well, see, that's the problem, is animals don't know where the borders of parks are. And so they're safe in one spot and they're not safe like 5 feet.
5 feet
over the line, yeah.
What?
Yeah, because this was in 1995, and as part of the Interagency Bison Management Plan, 5 agencies and 3 tribal entities work to maintain a wild, free-ranging bison population and reduce the risk of brucellosis transmission from bison to cattle. So, in the decades since the IBMP was created, the bison population has ranged from 2,400 to 6,000 animals, and there have been no cases of bison transmitting brucellosis directly to cattle, in part due to efforts by federal and state agencies to maintain separation between the animals.
Yeah.
And the state of Montana now allows bison to occupy some habitat adjacent land that was previously off limits to them. Which is a major conservation advancement, since they now have, like, because in winter, they roam more for grazing. Yeah. But a lack of tolerance for wild bison in most areas outside of Yellowstone continues to limit the restoration of the species. So there is another program called the Bison Conservation Transfer Program. With the herd growing to exceed the park's carrying capacity, the program was established to transfer bison to tribal lands. A key part of the program is a lengthy quarantine and testing process to ensure that the bison that are transferred are free of brucellosis, a disease that they can carry, as we've covered. So I wonder if it's just part of that herd, and maybe since it's more common just to have in bison, it's not the whole herd, but they don't know. But maybe they don't test thousands of animals. They probably only test the ones that are getting removed, which is why that there was probably such it was so scary for the ranchers to. We don't know if this bison has brucellosis, but we just kind of have to assume it does, because if my herd is infected, you're probably done for the year. If you have stillbirths and your cattle can't produce, that's your whole livelihood right there. That's hard. But the program has successfully transferred over 30,000 bison to conservation herds and tribal lands, demonstrating a commitment to restoring the species to its ecological and cultural significance across North America. The reintroduction and distribution efforts are seen as vital for healing the cultural connection between indigenous people and bison, and for improving tribal food security.
Wow.
So the 30,000 is a lot of bison. Yeah, because the NPS would like to see more of a tolerance for migrating bison on public lands in surrounding states, similar to deer and elk, like they have in other ungulates. But also those are usually hunted in other states. And I don't think there's a lot of hunting in bison, but the park isn't big enough to let bison numbers increase without more available habitat to sustain them. So, obviously they don't, like we talked about, we have to keep the population kind of in check for that. But we cannot force adjacent states to tolerate more migrating bison, because obviously that's the state's policies. No one can control that except for the state. So the NPS actually did say that they would like hunting outside the park to become a successful management tool of bison. So they eventually could become hunted, as for other species like elk and deer. But for this to happen, bison need to be allowed to disperse more wildly and pioneer new areas away from Yellowstone, because otherwise hunting wouldn't be a successful management tool, because there wouldn't be enough outside the park. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm
still processing.
I was gonna say, I'm even still processing, and I've read through this 5 times. It's just so much, and the history of not only we've went through bears, and that was a whole load in itself, and then bison is just oh my goodness.
So why don't they manage it federally? Did they ever manage it federally, like the bison?
I don't know about that. I just know that they were reintroduced into Yellowstone. It's in a small way to grow the population. Maybe because they're not endangered.
then is that, like,
probably because enough of the species exist
Yeah,
where they're not endangered.
I suppose. So then are they, like, mainly in Wyoming, or are they in, like, all of what is considered the Yellowstone National Park? Because I know it goes
Like
into...
the greater Yellowstone ecosystem.
Yeah, like, I guess I don't know how... Like, I know it
So-
goes into Montana,
Yeah,
and
so
it
now
doesn't go into Idaho, too?
So before they didn't, like, that's when state and federal agencies were killing them, is when they would leave the park. But now they have a little bit more of a buffer on those sides. But it's not that much.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit of a buffer now, but for them to be able to be hunted and for their species to be able to go where they used to go, they'd need more wide access.
Yeah.
To,
Wow.
yeah. But I mean, that also means bison operate in, like, such large herds. It seems like I don't even know how that would work with, like,
where
with
else?
how people now live in the
Yeah.
United States. I don't know how that would even be possible. I mean, because now there are other national parks that have buffalo.
Yeah.
And other, like, like state parks that have buffalo.
Yep.
Like, we even have one in Minnesota that has buffalo. Yeah. But I don't know if that would work to just, like how far they could go.
Yeah.
Just with, like, because if you have a herd of, like, a couple hundred bison just going through, like, your fields.
Yeah.
I could see how that would
ruin, like, crops, or it's gonna ruin...
Or they're gonna eat the grass that was meant for the
cattle.
cattle.
Yeah.
So I could see, I could see why that's a problem.
Yeah.
But I also think that, like, if you have state land that's protected right above Yellowstone, you should
just let them.
Which now they do let them.
Yeah.
But I don't really know if they're going to be able to get much further than that, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know how... Because they want to return them to all their natural places, which is a great thought, and I love that, too.
It's just a good concept, but, like,
I don't know how realistic that is with people...
Yeah.
living with the population we have, and, like, people living.
Yeah.
Just people be living in their land, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't know how realistic that is, or how that would even work. I guess I don't know if bison do operate in some smaller herds, maybe, but all the ones we've seen have been larger.
Like, large herds.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, like, when we were in, like, Theodore Roosevelt, those were smaller herds than
it
what we
wasn't
see in
as large.
Yellowstone.
Yeah, that's
so I
true.
wonder if...
But I also wonder if that's because it's a smaller area, I think, than Yellowstone. And also, I read this about... I think they have fences up.
Oh.
In Theodore Roosevelt. For the wild mustangs and for the buffalo.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's fences on part of the park for sure.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I don't know. But I'm glad that we are not calling them anymore, and we are transferring them to tribal and state lands where, I agree. I like that. That's a better way. So, I mean, in both cases, it started off bad, really bad, but we're getting better in both.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's
at least
something.
It's forward motion.
That's true. That is true. And I hope, like 30 to 50 years down the road, hopefully it'll only get better from here. Like, I mean, think about how much better it's gotten in the past 50 years, and, like, hopefully
100%.
It'll be even better in the next.
Yeah. So now we're going to get into our third and final history of an animal in Yellowstone, and that is the wolves, which I would say is the most hotly debated animal topic.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah, so wolves have been a vital part of North America's ecosystem for thousands of years, ranging from Arctic tundra... I've been talking too much. My mouth is dry.
Yeah, no, I was the same way in our last episode.
Ranging from Arctic tundra to forest, grasslands, and deserts. Mm-hmm. Once widespread across the continent, like the buffalo too, they played a key role as an apex predator, maintaining the balance of prey populations and supporting biodiversity. However, due to habitat loss, hunting, and government eradication programs, wolves were nearly eliminated from most of their historical range by the mid-20th century. Wow. Conservation efforts, including reintroduction programs, have since helped restore wolf populations in select areas, highlighting their ecological and cultural significance. So, in the 1800s, westward expansion brought settlers and livestock into direct conflict with native predators like wolves. As agriculture expanded, most of wolves' prey was wiped out because, a lot of the ungulates that they would eat, it led to them targeting livestock.
Oh, okay.
So humans launched widespread eradication efforts, including poisoning, which eliminated wolves from most of their historical range. So poisoning, they would basically just poison something and then leave it out. But not only, one, that kills the wolves, but that it would also kill other animals that came up to it. It would kill any animals that ate the wolf. Like, it was, none of the ways that they're killing wolves seem like a great way to kill wolves, but...
Were you gonna ask a question?
Nope, because I'm making a question up on the fly for this one.
Oh.
Yeah. So even within Yellowstone, predator control measures in the late 1800s and early 1900s targeted wolves, bears, cougars, and coyotes to protect livestock and desirable wildlife like deer and elk. So in 1926, the last wolf pack in Yellowstone is killed. Those single wolves were occasionally reported afterwards, but there was never a pack after that until we reintroduced them.
Really?
So 1926.
So how does that work with animals that like wolves are pack animals? How do they even
Well, there are some lone, that'll happen in the wild where you get a lone wolf, but usually they're looking for a pack. Or
that's
maybe
so sad.
or maybe it's a pack that's outside the park area, but one that wandered
off. Yeah. Oh.
But park managers, lacking an understanding of the ecosystem at the time, viewed wolves as destructive predators. Between 1914 and 1926, at least 136 wolves were killed in the park, and by the 1940s, wolf packs were nearly extinct in the area.
Oh my gosh.
So by the mid-20th century, wolves were virtually eliminated from the lower 48 states.
That's
Except
crazy.
for one part where we learned this when we went to the International Wolf Sanctuary?
Yeah.
That North Minnesota has always been a haven for wolves.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that.
I didn't even know that, and we've lived in this state for
I did know
lives.
that we've had wolves there, but I didn't know it was one of the last places to have wolves in the lower 48.
Yeah. Which I thought was really cool.
I thought so too. So, in the 1960s, the National Park Service wildlife management policies shifted to let populations manage themselves more instead of, killing them all.
Yeah.
Emphasizing the importance of predators like wolves.
Mm-hmm.
So, an intensive survey in the 1970s found no evidence of wolf population in Yellowstone left. So, there weren't even any stragglers or lone wolves or nothing.
Gosh.
So, completely gone. Without wolves, there is an imbalance in the ecosystem. With the elk's main predator gone, the population more than doubled, which is crazy to think that, doubled. Because there's already a couple thousand, double it. Because I think they hit their high at, 19,000 or 17,000 or something like that. No, that is the double population.
That was the double. Okay.
Yeah. So,
crazy.
Yeah. So,
wait, so, in how much time did it double?
Within a couple decades. So,
wow.
At least between, so 1920s, 1930s to 1970s.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But think about going from even 7,000-ish to 17,000 is crazy. I can't remember if it's 17 or 19,000.
I think it was 19.
Okay.
Because didn't you say it in the buffalo?
I did.
Want to say I'm pretty sure it was 19,000. Okay.
So, elks overgrazed, so mice and rabbits couldn't hide from their predators anymore. Grizzlies suffered since elk ate their berries, which was needed to build up fat before winter.
Yeah.
Bees and birds had less flowers to feed on and less trees to nest in because the elk ate all of this.
Yeah.
When wolves were in the park, the most vulnerable place to be an elk was by the river. Yeah. And so this is where some of the worst damage that elk had done to the ecosystem was because their hooves eroded the riverbank so bad that the fish had murky homes, and they didn't have as many trees because they ate the trees. They didn't have clean water, and so beavers couldn't build their dams either because less trees.
Gosh.
Yeah, with fish and beavers both struggling. This in turn made the otters struggle. So it's just I just wanted to list out how this affected different species because it's a whole thing.
All sorts of different species.
Yeah, bears.
Not even just land animals.
Yeah.
It also affected
fish,
the stuff.
Otters.
Yeah.
Birds. All the things.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh my
I mean, but,
gosh.
I don't, you know that it's like a natural cycle, but I just thought it would be really cool to actually see it spelled out how it
Yeah.
affected so many
Yeah.
different types of animals.
Yeah.
What year were the gray wolf listed on the Endangered Species Act?
Do I get like a multiple choice?
Yeah, I'll give you multiple choice. Okay. So, 1970, 1979, 1982, 1974. Sorry, I went all over the place there.
Okay. I'm gonna, because my initial thought was something in the 70s. So I'm gonna guess 74.
Yeah, that's right. They were listed as an endangered, initiating recovery efforts under the Endangered Species Act in 1974. So
I'm actually really surprised I got that right.
Good job.
Completely guessed.
Good job. So in 1975, efforts to restore wolves in Yellowstone began, and in 1994, an environmental impact statement is completed for the reintroduction of wolves into central Idaho and the Yellowstone National Park. The chosen alternative reintroduces wolves as an experimental population, which allows for the killing of problem wolves outside park boundaries. Just like we know, as we just talked about, that animals don't know the boundaries.
Yeah.
But it also said problem wolves outside the boundaries, but I don't know if that was stuck to. I would assume a problem wolf would be killing livestock.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was stuck to, because if you're a rancher and you're here about... There was a lot of controversy about wolf reintroduction, which I will get into a little bit of both sides, because I honestly have struggled with where... Because, I'm not a very decisive person, but I also like decisions. I don't want to be wishy-washy, but I look so much into both sides, and it's honestly, I'm stuck.
Really? I believe it.
It's a hard one. I think it's just finding a happy medium, which I'll try and get into later, but more than 160,000 public comments are received, the largest number of public comments on any federal proposal of all time. Or of that time, sorry.
Yeah.
At that time. So
That's
in 1994.
Crazy.
Most of them negative, by the way. These are...
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. So a lot of people were very unhappy about this, but 1995 to 1996, 31 gray wolves from Western Canada are relocated to Yellowstone. The elk population... Oh, I think it was at a high when we were talking about the bison, but the elk population went from 17,000 in 1995 to 4,000 at present time, which is a much more manageable herd size for that area. 1995 to 2003.
And that was just in Yellowstone, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, 1995 to 2003, wolves kill significantly fewer livestock than expected. 256 sheep and 41 cattle.
Okay.
Over the course of 8 years. But ranchers report it's hard to report all kills since there isn't always enough evidence. So even if they report... So this is where it starts getting I don't know.
Yeah.
Because ranchers say that there's not always enough evidence for it to be counted in the official numbers and to get compensation. Because they get a small compensation since it was a federal program to reintroduce wolves.
Yep. Yeah.
But they said sometimes all that would be left is just a little piece of wool from a lamb. And if there's not evidence that a wolf did it, and I don't know what that evidence entails.
I was just gonna say, how do they have what
I don't know, and how would
evidence?
you differentiate if it's a wolf or a coyote? If there's do you need a carcass for it to be considered or counted in? I don't know all that. I just know there were a lot of ranchers that said their kills were not counted in this report.
Yeah.
Which also but at some point for the federal reintroduction program and the people that are counting these numbers, where do you cut off if it was a wolf or if it wasn't?
Yeah.
Because you do need evidence to support that it was a wolf, and it can't just be a rancher's hunch that it was a wolf. But also, see, I'm back and forth on both sides so much, where it's you have to have a cutoff, but also if they're losing their livestock and their livelihood, and it's not even counted in this report, that would not only it would hurt your livelihood, but then you're no, these wolves really are killing more than what they're saying.
This is an issue,
But also, if there's not enough evidence to support that, I can't. I go, there's so much back and forth where it's so hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is my next question.
Yeah.
Are non-lethal deterrents for wolves successful for ranchers or farms?
Are you talking like fences and stuff, or like what?
I'll go through the multiple options of like
Okay.
non-lethal deterrents, but
I think they're maybe somewhat effective, but not as effective as they hoped.
okay, so that's pretty close because most of them are successful at the beginning, but eventually they all become.
They figure out a way to get around it.
So, and also it is a lot more expensive for the ranchers to do these things. So
yeah.
Here are some things that they do. Move livestock even more often, which then you have more manpower.
Yeah.
Sometimes more fields and fencing requirements then. So that costs more money. Use guardian dogs, which is more money. But like, so there was, gosh,
But
what was
also,
it?
like, how many of these dogs are also, like, do the dogs ever get killed?
Sometimes. But I was reading specifically about one, it was actually like a sheep ranch. But they had, for like 160 sheep, they had to have 9 like guardian dogs.
Oh my gosh. Well, I believe
and then they also said it also went into then sometimes they do scare off wolves, or sometimes they'll get in a wolf attack, and either after that they won't want to be near obviously the sheep at all because they'll have a traumatic effect, or some of them will like seek out wolves. So it's like they can have very different reactions to an attack, just like people can to traumatic experiences. But I mean, so that in turn, that would cost more money for the guardian dogs themselves. Yep. And then also just like the emotional toll of a human. Like I could not, if my dog had, like because sometimes the presence of them is enough at the beginning, but then eventually it isn't.
Yeah. Because eventually they'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I also love guardian dogs. Like I think it's the coolest thing.
Oh, so do I.
Like when you see those videos of those dogs that, like the one that like fought off not like a pack of coyotes or a pack of wolves, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And like some farmers will do anything to save that dog, right? Because they deserve it. Like they did their job, like
and they did it well. Like
but you just see them all, and then it makes my heart. Okay, we have to move on. Okay, night penning. Okay. Where they pen the animals at night, but that's not. None of these are 100% effective, but these are non-lethal deterrents. Yeah. But that also requires more penning, more manpower to then do that every night. Culling weak animals. So, like, because wolves will go after the weak sheep or the weak cattle, So, culling them and killing them, trying to get ahead of the wolves killing them. But that also, you're culling your animals sooner than you would have. Noisemakers, which eventually wolves get used to.
The noise,
Human activity, which then you need more
people.
Yeah, which also is more expensive, and then also they get used to. So like just like because if they're in that area and they don't leave that, multi-species grazing, which sometimes can work, sometimes can't, because sometimes you can't multi-species graze because diseases are transferable and you don't want to mix your livestock. But changing bedding sites frequently. But also that's costly because so there are obviously multiple downsides to ranchers using these non-lethal. I applaud you.
Yes.
But we can see the downsides for ranchers using these. So not using their full range capacity, because sometimes if they know wolves are in an area, they'll move their herd, which actually then makes the wolves more comfortable in that area because there are no people over there anymore. So sometimes it just, in turn, they're trying to protect their livestock, but it's actually like giving the wolves a leg up in more space.
Yeah.
And, actively managing for wolves and not for livestock is what ranchers are having to do. So instead of doing their job and managing their livestock, they're having to manage actively against wolves to try and just try and make it.
Just try and make it to the end of the year.
Their animals almost if there's wolves in the area, they will almost always weigh less. So that cuts into their overhead and profit and just, keeping their ranch going. And have been studies that show reduced conception rates and increased miscarriages in the livestock with wolves in the area. Well, which makes sense because if the animals are under more stress,
they're not gonna.
Yeah, it's harder for them to obviously procreate.
Yeah.
And working animals can become harder because cattle then want to fight herding dogs because they think cattle or sheep want to fight the herding dogs that usually help ranchers because of wolves.
Yeah.
So, I did hear about this one really cool study or not a study, but this one really cool case that was in northern Minnesota actually. where they got federal and different state fundings for this rancher, because some ranchers will be hit hard year after year.
Oh, okay.
And so he was really against the wolves in northern Minnesota, and they got him funding, and the Park Service was in on this, and they built a 7-foot tall fence and 2-foot underground around his entire ranch.
Wow.
And after that, like, and they had all the wolves in the area on GPS trackers, and they did, 2 of them got under, but
That's crazy.
But once they found that spot, they fixed it, because wolves will, if they find a spot, they'll go back in.
Yeah.
They fixed that, and overall, his losses have been, like, dramatically, just a large decrease.
Yeah.
Which has made him more
how much
happy.
did it cost?
Well, I'm gonna get to because he is now more happy with wolves, because he's able to do his job without having to manage the wolves instead of managing his livestock. And obviously, the wolves are happier because he's not using, I don't think he was using any lethal deterrents on them before, but obviously he's not just, like, shooting the wolves.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that does cost a lot, and it's not common. Most ranchers don't get that. Like, he was a special case. And so it's hard, because as much as I love wolves, like, I think, like, when we, I felt so blessed when we got to see a wolf. We were like,
dude,
I was like, that is a gift from above, because it's not a common thing.
No.
And they're majestic, but I also get that they are predators, and it's hard because, yes, they did once used to roam, and yes, the government and people killed them horribly in almost all of them, but also there are people that live here, and I do think that people are more important than animals, but also I think if we could find a happy middle ground to have, like, yes, wolves should be here. I'm glad that they reintroduced wolves into Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'll get into some of the benefits into that in a minute, but it's also hard because all those ranchers in the area, and it's just a back and forth where it's like,
I know, I agree. And in my head, I'm kind of in the same spot where it's like there's such a back and forth where I can't, like,
wholeheartedly say, yes, wolves should just roam the entire continent and have free range, because this is people's livelihoods we're talking about. Like, my office job is not being threatened by wolves being, reintroduced into Wyoming. And
so I don't like being in the middle.
I know. Okay, so I pulled a quote, and our sources will be linked in the episode description. This quote from Ed Bangs, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wolf recovery coordinator during the wolf reintroduction, so in the 90s, said, "We did manage the heck out of wolves. When they caused problems, we would kill them. And so the people that really, really, really loved wolves did not like us for removing wolves. And the people that really, really didn't like wolves didn't like us because we brought them back and had them in a lot of places." So like, even he is saying there's no, because people are on such separated, divided sides of this, that it's almost like there's no, people are having a hard time finding a happy medium.
There's always going to be somebody that's unhappy about a situation, though.
And there are people, and I get, like, yes, a lot of people killed wolves horribly, and they want to bring them back. We brought bison back. Why can't we bring wolves back?
Like,
so well.
I understand both sides.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
but also, because then, at one point, we're going to be, like, in this debate for 20 minutes.
Well, not only that, but, like, what they do for the ecosystem.
That's very also true, because the elk, there's too many elks that are ruining everything.
And, like you were saying, how it affects, like, even the fish, the beavers, the otters, like, our river systems, like, how it just, one animal can affect so many things.
And we need the wolves in the ecosystem.
Need them.
But I don't know what that medium would be. I'd have to do a lot more research to actually suggest a real medium.
Well, because how do you, like, seriously, like, even if we, like, lowered the amount of wolves that were introduced, like, how do you keep them away from
leaving the park? They don't know any better. Like,
well, and you can't just put a fence up around the park. Like,
it's 2.2 million acres. We can't, you know how much money it would cost to put a fence.
Yeah.
And also, they need to be able to migrate. Like, other animals need to be able to migrate somewhat into those other spaces that we just talked about.
Because otherwise, it's going to destroy that ecosystem.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I don't know what a happy medium is. You know what? Please leave a comment if you know a magic solution.
Let us know your thoughts on this, because clearly we're stuck in the middle, and I feel like. Oh, I don't even know.
Yeah. So in 2008 to 2017, The wolves were delisted and relisted on the Endangered Species Act in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. As of April 26, 2017, gray wolves are delisted in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming, indicating that they've sufficiently recovered and are no longer endangered species in those states. Well, and also, they've been on and off that list over the course of 10 years multiple times.
Yeah.
That's why I paraphrased, and I was like, in the course of 8 or 9 years, they were on and off multiple times.
Yeah.
So the future of wolves in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem will largely depend on the management of livestock depredation, wolf hunting outside the park, and the social acceptance of coexistence with wolves. But I also think if it's gonna cost money. I think they already are they're trying to supplement the cost of a livestock.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, I feel like if you're gonna ask people to coexist with wolves that haven't lived with them, beforehand. I mean, this happened 30 years ago, they reintroduced them, but if you're gonna ask people to do that, you should help them
do that.
Yeah, like make it make it not cost way more money for them to ranch with wolves in the area. But also they're trying to supplement a kill, like a wolf kill, with money for almost like fair market value of what that head would be. So I don't. But also, if there's not enough evidence for that kill to be counted as a wolf kill, then they don't get compensation.
It could be something else. Is like it could be something else killing it.
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
But since the reintroduction, the wolves have established themselves back in the ecosystem. The number of wolves in packs have ebbed and flowed over the years, but the population currently hovers around a stable 90 to 110 wolves within the park. Approximately 500 wolves are present throughout the greater Yellowstone ecosystem.
Wow.
Yeah. Wolves are, again, asserting a positive influence on the ecosystem by playing a crucial role, as we've discussed. And bringing in an estimated $83 million to the park's gateway communities through wildlife watching. Wow. So that's not only even to the park, that's to the park's gateway communities too. Like some of the small shops and stuff that are in that area. So Yellowstone National Park is now one of the best places in the world to view and study wild wolves.
We actually did know that too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we have seen a wolf in Yellowstone.
Yeah, we did. It was like barely.
But we did. I do remember that now. Because I was like trying to think. I was like, have we ever seen one? And we did.
We've actually seen a couple. Because we saw one in Grand Teton too.
Yep.
Barely. That was like the back of one. But
we could see it.
And we saw one on the sidewalk in Yosemite. And it was an albino wolf.
Right.
That was the craziest thing. I was like, I was driving and it was like 5 a.m. because we were going to do a long hike. And I was like, Michaela, dude, it's a wolf. And we saw it for like a minute just running on the sidewalk next to us. And it was the coolest thing ever. That was the best wolf viewing I've ever had in my entire life.
And it was so random.
Yeah, I know. Because it was in the valley too, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was crazy. We didn't get any pictures or a video of that.
Oh, no, that was too fast. It was like, we were driving and we were looking at it, and we weren't even trying to pull out our cameras. We were just like...
We were just in awe.
Yeah.
Like...
Look at that thing. What?
Yeah.
But...
That was crazy. I forgot about that.
We do acknowledge that it is extremely rare and improbable to see a wolf in Yosemite Valley, especially a white-coated gray wolf, but... It's not impossible. Google said it was not impossible. It was not a coyote, and it was not a large dog, which just makes that experience even more magical to us. Yeah. So, that's wolves. So, they are very vital to the ecosystem, as we've learned.
Yeah.
We need wolves in an ecosystem like that, where you have so many wildlife, I think.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, obviously, it hurts everything else, basically, not to have them.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a hard medium to find a balance with humans, animals that are affected by wolves.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So,
Gosh. That one, I don't think I'll ever be able to, like, fully pick a side on that.
Oh, no, I don't think so either.
Never.
I think because we do need it for the ecosystem, like I said, but also ranchers, that's their life. Like, and also people... It's not even like it's just their livelihood to make money.
No, but it's like
it feeds the country.
Like it's affecting more than just the ranchers.
Yeah.
It's affecting like the communities
beef production,
surrounding it. Like affecting everybody around it. We can't just not
Right.
have ranchers. Like, they are the backbone of the country. They are literally feeding us. Like, yeah, I don't.
Yeah. So, if anyone has a magic solution that would make us feel better,
Yeah.
let me know, because I feel very torn.
Yeah.
I just want an answer that's like, yes, this will work for both sides. We're like, they're still in the ecosystem because it's good for it, but they're not hurting the ranchers, which I don't know if that will ever happen. But
I don't know.
I also don't know exactly what the status of the wolf kills are now in present day, because that wolf kill of the 256 sheep and 41 cattle was from 1995 to 2003. Okay. So I wonder now
what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, so thanks for listening to me ramble about the human and animal history, which is like an hour and a half long. Sorry, guys.
It's fine.
There's so much, though.
Yeah.
And I didn't even go into it all. Like, I just, like, cherry-picked a couple of the big animals that were reintroduced, and then and did, like, a basic overview of the human history.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's all, like, it all very much is a part of what Yellowstone is.
And I loved learning about this, all of it.
Yeah.
I would, like, I could have gone so much. You could have gone so much more into depth, because I really do want to know some of these things, like, what are the, cattle kills today with wolves? You should Google that. If they have found a better medium for keeping coexistence with wolves for the ecosystem, but also for ranchers. I don't know. We'll have to, maybe we will get to do like a wolf episode where we just talk about the wolves all over the country and like what the population.
We totally could. Averaging the number of cattle killed by wolves around Yellowstone is very low, averaging less than 1 per year in recent times. So that's 2013 to 2021.
But I wonder if it's because it's around. What if it's not like ranches directly around the Yellowstone? You should just look up Wyoming. Because wolves have migrated since then, a little bit, where they've expanded. Clearly it went from, 110 wolves within the park, but 500 wolves present around the park.
In 2023, wolves killed or injured 41 head of cattle in Wyoming. This marks the lowest number of livestock conflicts recorded since 2003. The total number of confirmed livestock killed or injured by wolves in 2023 was 49, which included 41 cattle, 3 sheep, 4 goats, and 1 horse.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
They took down a horse?
Apparently.
Well, I guess they took down elk.
That was
still a horse.
2023 was 41 cattle killed or injured. 2022 was 39, along with 5 horses.
Holy cow! I bet you a horse ranch got hit bad.
Yeah, apparently. And then 2019 was 42 cattle were confirmed killed by wolves.
That's sad, but the numbers are lower than I thought. But the numbers
are lower. Yeah.
They are lower than I thought. And also the fact that the last year was the lowest year recorded. That's gotta be good news, right? I'm sure Wyoming is doing something right, right?
I really like that. I looked that up
Me too, because that makes me feel better. Because I was just like over here going like
back and forth. But it's like there's gotta.
So maybe they're doing something right, and hopefully they're not just like killing the wolves. I doubt that happened, right? They didn't just kill them or kill more wolves, and that's why there's less injuries, right?
I don't know, and
Okay, we could go on about this forever, so we'll have to do a specifically dedicated episode just to wolves.
Yeah.
Because we really could go on about this forever, so
clearly
we have already went on about this forever.
Anyway, let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Please like, share, and subscribe to
Sleeping in Park.